What are some things then that are causing that massive decrease?
Yeah, so there's a number of factors here. I guess number one would be in the general average everyday person, it would be a sedentary lifestyle. So like working in here,
We'll keep it quiet.
lack of sunlight,
Yep.
crappy diets like processed foods and refined carbohydrates. BPA is another one, obviously, like plastic, eating and drinking from plastic.
So is that like, because a lot of people, you go, oh, cool, I'm smashing my meal prep, which is a really positive thing to do, obviously. Maybe, it's still better than not doing that, but then they're slamming it in a plastic container and heating up their food in that. Is that what?
Yeah, and then obviously what happens is the plastic leaches into the food, and over time what happens is, even though it's like a really small amount, it starts to actually like bind to these androgen receptors, and they can block the androgen receptors, meaning that the testosterone that you're producing can't actually navigate and bind to its receptor, which means that it's basically inactive.
Okay. So is that when then you're seeing someone may have decent testosterone, but it's not useless, but it's borderline useless testosterone? Like it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing because of things like that?
Yeah, pretty much. Much.
And what are there? I think you've talked about even like different underwears and things like that. What are some of the nitty gritties that are causing some of these other issues?
A big one that you mentioned there is actually a number of men are wearing like polyester underwear, and it's very common, man. Like it's not easy for a guy to know whether or not he should be wearing that. Like not many guys are going to check, the material of their freaking underwear. Like
cheap one's done, thanks.
Just bit it.
Yeah.
Like polyester underwear has been shown to, like a good example of this is, when you're wearing like a polyester t-shirt and you take it off and it gives you the electrostatic shocks, the little charges.
Yeah.
What happens is when you're wearing that underwear, you're actually like that's happening up against your testes, and it's causing micro amounts of electrostatic shocks to the testes, and that can cause it can actually cause complete infertility in some cases.
Bloody hell. So is that a more recent finding that they've come across, or this has been something that they've been seeing in like human studies for a while now?
The study that I was focused on was back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So back in the early 90s, we knew about this like detrimental effect.
Yeah. It's interesting that how like we can know about things and not really, we'll be like, yeah, but we'll just do it anyway, because I guess the modern world is the convenience sort of factor. And like I just mentioned before, it's like, oh, but they're generally probably going to be the cheaper underwear, much like the plastic container is cheaper than buying the glass one, and all these other factors. We always lean into that the short-term easier option rather than opting for the long-term better option as well.
Yeah.
I imagine that's pretty common. You see that.
Oh, all the time, man. All the time.
Yeah. So estrogen then in that, amongst obviously they're kind of seen as like, I guess in the general world, people go polar opposites. Right. You go men, testosterone, women, estrogen, but with the understanding that, a lot of people might not understand this, that estrogen is still a good thing for a bloke to have. Where's that line drawn though? Like when is it good? How much of it is good? What does it do?
Yeah, it's a really important point you bring up, because a number of men probably perceive estrogen as the female hormone, and that men should not have estrogen. It's not true. In fact, some of testosterone's benefits actually come from its conversion into estrogen via that aromatase enzyme. So just to put it simply, like every single guy is producing estrogen, a really small amount. And what happens is we run into issues when estrogen is too high relative to testosterone. So when estrogen is like estrogen dominant, you see like gynecomastia, like man boobs, puffiness, carrying water retention, moodiness. But if I can personally like share my experience here. Like I personally went on a quest a couple of years ago. I deliberately tried to lower my estrogen as low as possible using like my knowledge around herbal medicine, supplementation and stuff. And let me tell you this, Jordan, like it definitely wasn't a great outcome. Like I felt my joints started like they were quite painful. I was feeling like moody. I lost morning wood. I felt terrible. And that's when I learned the hard way. You know?
So what were some of those things that because someone may be doing those things to then realize, oh shit, maybe I'm going too far with it as well?
Yeah. So what I did was I created like a stack, and that's what I'm pretty well known for is building stacks and creating protocols. So what I did was I researched what are the most potent aromatase inhibitors, like natural aromatase inhibitors. So I came across a few different compounds. One of them is zinc. So I was taking high dose zinc. I was taking tonkat Ali because tonkat Ali has been shown to lower aromatase. I was stacking that with calcium D-glucarate, which helps to clear out estrogen. And then what else was I doing? I was taking a few other compounds, and that full synergy there led to a state of like low estrogen symptoms, of which I thought I'd feel like Superman, but I definitely didn't feel great.
Yeah, you lost that balance then, didn't you? Or that like quote unquote ratio of it as well.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because like I just said to you before, like I've worked with Ben, who's been on the podcast, to do my blood work and look through all those things. And just the understanding of like what to take, like someone hears, oh, you took zinc and it did that. It's like, it's not to say zinc's a bad thing to take, but it's understanding what you need to take and talking to someone that actually knows what they're talking about to give the advice around the supplementation as well. Because it's so easy. People just blanket term. Vitamin D is probably a great one. And I don't know to what extent like you can just get away with it. But like most people just go, oh, just take vitamin D. And or they say, oh, zinc's good for this, magnesium's good for that. And you look at their cupboard and they're just taking it for the sake of it, but which could be shooting themselves in the foot.
And also to that point, Jordan, is like the timing, like supplementation timing. It's a really important one because we see a number of people using supplements at the wrong time of the day. Like, for example, vitamin D, a number of people have been told by their doctors it's completely fine if you take it before bed, but this is not ideal. We want to be taking vitamin D in the morning.
Okay.
You know, the sun rises in the morning, and the sun goes at night. So that's just another.
Makes sense. Yeah. So, like, do you still get if you are taking, like, say, to people understanding like the dieting thing is maybe a little bit of a relatable concept. It's like meal timing, protein timing, it helps, but it's not the be all and end all. Like you're still going to reap a lot of the reward of protein if you eat a decent amount over the course of the whole day, calories over the course of the whole week or something like that. The macro sense less than just the micro. Do you still get the benefits of those supplements? You're just quote unquote wasting some of the potential.
Yeah. That's you'd still retain some of the benefits. Like you're still going to top up your vitamin D levels, but what's going to happen is the downstream consequence would be impaired sleep quality because you're taking it at nighttime. So it's sort of like, how do we get the best bang for buck for different supplements? And it really is an art and a skill, and that's sort of where my expertise lies. Is like creating these supplementation protocols that are personalized for people to feel and operate their best. Yeah,
which generally people probably steer clear of because they go, oh, I want the cheap, convenient option once again, which if you're getting one-on-one is going to be that premium service, but it's likely what people need as well, which is a challenge. Now, there's some factors there that may cause some decreases in testosterone, the lifestyle factors and things like that. How can then people obviously improve the things we just mentioned, but are there other things that people can be doing diet-wise, exercise-wise, supplement-wise, as a general rule, plus obviously then looking into the specifics?
Definitely from a nutrition perspective, I always like to sort of start with diet because let me just put this out there. Vegan diet is not going to be conducive to boosting testosterone. I've seen blood work time and time again. And so what we want to be focusing on is like pretty much contrary to what you hear in the news and things like that. Avoid saturated fat. It's bullshit, man. Like saturated fat is what we need because it's oftentimes rich in cholesterol as well, like these saturated fat foods like meat and eggs and things like that. These foods contain nutrients that are highly bioavailable, meaning that we can extract and utilize them to our, to the best advantage. And then if we look at the carbohydrate perspective, we really want to be focusing on easy to digest carbohydrates. So we're talking like, white rice, easy to digest, quick and easy. Fruits generally for most people are pretty easy to digest, particularly the berries. And then from like a fat perspective, I sort of mentioned saturated fats, but also like things like olive oil, avocados, coconut oil, macadamias, all the foods that you probably eat regularly as well.
Head over to Jordan Checker Podcast to get the full exclusive experience.